Back in the days of superhero movies starting to regain their footing in the early 2000s, thanks to Sam Raimi's interpretation of a certain wall crawler that you probably know, this was also around the time where I started taking a much more deeper dive into the world of Spider-Man, and not just Spider-Man, the world of comic books itself. And it was then when I played Spidey's game on the PS1 is when I was introduced to someone who is both an enemy and also an ally to the web spinner himself, and that was the Lethal Protector himself, Venom. Now, during that time, I didn't know much about Venom. I didn't read any of the comics, but I quickly realized that he became a fan favorite in the world of superheroes. And how could he not? With an alien entity known as a symbiote that gave him enhanced strength, super speed, can shoot webbing like Spider-Man. Okay, so he's like a bigger, darker, more vicious Spider-Man with huge teeth, but that doesn't mean that he wasn't cool. But most often we've seen them team up against a greater evil like, you know, Carnage. Venom was so awesome that Marvel decided to give him his own comic book series in 1993, which was later adapted into a novel in 2018. And then adapted into a Tom Hardy movie of the same name. That's a lot of adaptation. But let's go ahead and take a look in this novel. So this is going to be my review of Venom Lethal Protector. So like I do before I actually jump into the book, let's first take a look at the author who wrote it, which is James R. Tuck. Now, Tuck was a famous bouncer and professional tattoo artist for over 15 years before he started actually writing books. He even owned his own tattoo shop that was called Family Traditions Tattoo, earned a big name in the sci-fi and fantasy world. He's known for writing his Deacon Chalk series and a novel based off of the Arrow series, and he even wrote a Robin Hood series along with another author that goes by the name of Debbie Vigue. I think I said that right. So without further ado, let's talk about this book. So the story picks up when Venom makes his way back to his home roots back in San Francisco. After his truce with Spider-Man, he now becomes a lethal protector, with more emphasis on the word lethal. After killing his first criminal, Venom has not only caught the attention of the webhead himself, but also Carlton Drake, the owner of a shady corporation known as the Life Foundation, who wants the symbiote to make more babies for super soldiers. Orwell Taylor, who wants revenge on Venom for killing his son in the past with his last encounter with Spider-Man. And finally, Roland Treese, who wants Venom out of the way for his secret plans to find riches buried beneath the city itself. And if Venom's life wasn't chaotic enough as it is, he also has to defend a secret society of mole people that seek refuge in an underground city at any cost while dealing with his 5 spawns that would give Carnage a run for his money. But no pressure for this Lethal Protector, right? I never really read the Venom comics, like I said, so I can't really say if this book actually followed the source material or not. But in terms of writing, the book was very entertaining. Much like the last Spider-Man book I covered, a book can go into more descriptive detail than a comic book can, as well as make it a bit more interesting and more flushed out than you can with a comic book. Although Eddie Brock is the main character in the story and we're supposed to be rooting for him, it's almost like he has a target painted on his back, and every single time when he turns around, there's always somebody who's trying to kill him. I'm just sitting here wondering, like, seriously, how many people has Venom not pissed off so far? And I keep thinking that the Avengers are probably going to show up out of nowhere and then they're going to start throwing down, which I'm not gonna lie, that would be really awesome to read. But all joking aside, I've really gotten a better feel for Eddie Brock as a character. Like I said, I don't really dabble in the Venom comics all that much, but I'm more familiar with the different versions from films, video games, and even TV shows, where if Venom wasn't a raging psychopathic villain who's trying to kill Spider-Man, then he was a guy who was addicted to a living alien parasite that's the same as a meth head needs their fix. But the book actually does him justice. He's smart, he's resourceful, and he knows how to do a bit of investigating from his past days as a journalist. The book only shows that Eddie cares about one thing and one thing only, and that is protecting the innocent. Even though it's through violent and gory needs, it shows how Eddie Brock has come a long way from being a Spidey villain to being an anti-hero. We got Spider-Man himself, who made his way from New York to San Francisco to track down Venom just so he could turn him over to the law for committing a murder, and would later team up with him anyway, so what's the point of that? And then there's the 5 Venoms, who were created by Carlton Drake by using the chosen hosts to bond with Venom's symbiote babies in order to make the most powerful and the most evil things in the entire world. Imagine how scary and evil Carnage is. Now times him by 5. And then there's the Jury, which is the task force created by Orwell with the prime mission of hunting down and destroying Venom, basically Iron Man ripoff. Finally, there's the citizens of Sanctuary that take refuge underground in a city buried underneath the earth that is now being threatened by Roland Treese and his men. I feel like when it came to the characters, I felt like there would be more to them if they could have been flushed out in terms of storytelling. When it comes to the idea of knowing the characters of your book, you would want to know more about the certain characters, therefore grant more world building when it comes to that story. Mind you, not every book has to do that, but I mean, it helped. And there were certain characters that appeared in the book and are just tossed out altogether. What I mean by this is that there's one character that actually makes an appearance in the book. He only showed up for maybe like a couple of pages and then he was just gone, and that was Eddie's father, which is Carl Brock. In the beginning of the story, Eddie mentioned him only once, and later on Spider-Man goes to see him twice to find out any information about his son's whereabouts, and this man just doesn't care. He's just an asshole. He doesn't convey anything to the plot. He was just a dick. Why are you even here? He doesn't really convey much to the story anyway, other than providing a backstory to Eddie's upbringing that led him up to his journalism career and why he's the type of person that he is right now, and that's because of his dad. But it's not like he is the one telling the story. As a matter of fact, it was his housekeeper that was telling the story. How much of a worthless character you have to be in order to have build up to you in order to do nothing. Like in the beginning of the book, Eddie was talking about his dad like there was something as strange in a relationship between them, to the point where he didn't want to talk to his dad. And I felt like, oh, okay, so this is going to be like the part where Eddie gets to talk to his dad, and then, you know, they get to rekindle their relationship and everything, and, you know, just talk and everything. Or maybe there could be like some point in the book where, you know, they can like help each other out. Like Eddie could get like surrounded by like the Sentry or maybe the 5 Venoms, and his dad does something to try to save his son's life. Anything at all. But no, he doesn't do anything. He just shows up and then he just disappears, and then you don't even hear from him ever again.
This has been another pointless moment.
I actually love the dynamic between both Venom and Spider-Man. After Spider-Man and Venom team up, it reminded me how awesome these two are as teammates, because it is hilarious. There was a moment in the book to where Spider-Man and Venom were, you know, doing banters off of each other. Like, that's something I've never seen in any media of Spider-Man at all.
Tell me this, Einstein. Who could have wanted to steal Octavius's technology?
Ooh, we know!
Who?
The Submariner.
Submariner? Get serious, will you?
The mighty Thor.
Are you out of your mind? Don't answer.
Seeing it happen in this book actually got a couple of chuckles out of me. That was the first time ever that I laughed at this book. Even though that they pretty much can be the worst of enemies, they can even be the best of allies. When it comes to like character building like that, like, you know, these two pretty much hated each other. Now they're working together in order for the common good, in order to protect the innocents and whatnot. That's good character building right there. I don't know whether it's because of the fact that it was the comic book that did this, or it was the writer's choice, but what was the point of bringing up Eddie's dad if there was no point to have him in the story at all? Like, if he wasn't going to do anything, then what was the point of having him in the story at all? Like, literally, there was no point at all. I would have been fine reading the book without any mention of him at all. If you're going to go through that much trouble to bring up a character, you might as well put them in the story. Unless, you know, you're just going to say, oh yeah, Eddie has a dad, and his dad was a jerk. Don't worry, he's not in the story. But, you know, that's just my thing and everything. I'm sorry about my rant. So, moving on to my final thoughts about this book. In all honesty, when you're a fan of the Venom character, or if you're a fan of Spider-Man or comics in general, you'll definitely get a good read out of this book. I mean, the action will keep you hooked for a good long while, and in my honest opinion, I actually enjoy the action a lot more. Like, it makes me pretty much like sit at the edge of my seat. It was like, oh my god, what's going to happen next? What's going to happen next? I mean, there are some moments in the book to where I kind of like facepalm so hard. Like, there was this one part in the book to where Venom was captured and he tried to like make a breakout and whatnot, and then after he escaped, he only escaped and was free for probably like 2 minutes. I'm not kidding. 2 minutes. This guy was supposed to be like, you know, a powerhouse and a badass, and he gets captured again in 2 minutes. That's kind of stupid. But other than that, the action in the book is great. I enjoyed some of the characters in there, and I also spotted some of the things that they took out of the story in order to use it for the Venom movie, which is probably the reason why this came out around the same time the movie did. So it was a great read. If you're a fan of comic books, or if you're a fan of Spider-Man, or if you're definitely a fan of Venom, this book is definitely something for you. But if you don't know anything about comic books, you might be confused a little bit. But if you're looking for something with a ton of action and science fiction and shit like that, then Venom is definitely something that is your cup of tea. I recommend it. I honestly think that this was probably the most fun reading I had in a long time, especially since I haven't been doing a lot of reading and everything. This kind of made me feel like I was watching a Venom movie or a TV show, and it's amazing. But anyway, guys, that's all I have for the Venom review, and I hope you guys enjoy it. And I'll probably take a look at the Venom movie in order to coincide with the book. I'm actually going to be starting a new series soon. It's going to be called From Pages to Film. I think that's a good enough title for it. I don't know. It's a starting title. But anyway, guys, let me know what you think in the comments below. But anyway, I'm KRAZYKentReader, and I'm out of here. Happy reading, and I'll catch you in the next one. Peace.